The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Today on Aging Horizons, we are going to be covering the fascinating topic of the State Law Library. We're going to be speaking with Franklin Rungley, who is the State Law Librarian, and he is going to tell us what a State Law Library is, what sort of information they have there, and the services they provide to everyday Montanans, and the benefit that a State Law Library has on the entire justice system. So make sure you stay tuned to Aging Horizons.
I was outside working on some equipment, nothing too strenuous. I started sweating and feeling out of breath.
When he felt pressure in his chest and aching in his arms, I knew we had to call 911.
First responders were there before we knew it. 38 minutes later, the doctors had restored the blood flow to my heart.
Now we know dialing 911 saved his life.
Your life is on the line.
This message sponsored by Mission Lifeline Montana.
I take care of my wife at home. When I found out training was available, I said, sign me up. It's made a huge difference.
When my husband was injured at work, it was life-altering. The classes taught me that it's okay to grieve, to ask for help, and to better cope as a caregiver.
My dad lives 4 hours away, and the Powerful Tools classes taught me that it's okay to ask for help. I highly recommend them.
To find out about this course for caregivers, go to powerfultoolsforcaregivers.org.
It's amazing the difference a little training can make.
Out here, we love our animals, from the wildlife to the livestock. Inside, it's the same. They're just like family. We keep them happy and healthy, most of the time. Secondhand smoke puts pets at risk for cancer, feline lymphoma, vomiting, increases the risk of tumors and lung cancer, even causes eye and skin disease. Secondhand smoke puts your pet's life at risk.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
Welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Katie Lovell, and today we are speaking with Franklin Rungley. See, I told you I was going to mess up your name at least several times.
Yes, it is hard.
He is the State Law Librarian for the State Law Library. Franklin, thank you so much for joining us today. It was so lovely to get to have you here on the show.
Katie, thank you so much for having me. I'll say when it's great to meet with you whenever I get to talk with you, because your program is always doing great things for people across Montana, and to be included in your sort of purview of things that will help citizens across Montana. The State Law Library is happy to be here, and I'm happy to talk on behalf of, what the Law Library does for citizens, and I'm excited to kind of spread the good word. I think that's always an important thing. There are so many great resources in Montana for citizens, and so many of them are these hidden gems. And so today I'm hoping to maybe uncover a hidden gem for many of your viewers today.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people have probably never even heard of the State Law Library. So what is the State Law Library, just on a very basic level?
Sure. When I ask my staff, what are we? What do we do? Yeah. My staff says, really simple, we have 3 words. We help people.
Yeah.
That's our goal. That's what we're up to. And so if we think of what a state law library, why one would have been necessary. So, at the territorial period, there was this idea of, oh my gosh, in the late 1800s, we need to begin collecting laws so we know how to govern ourselves.
Sure.
And so when the judicial branch starts, there's this idea of, we don't really have much law here, so we should start kind of collecting laws from other places and have a library in which we have not only what other places are doing, other places in the sort of historic American West, or what's going on in population centers at that time. So it's we need to at least begin collecting what are laws that are governing us and what are the things that we're doing, but also being able to rely on what other jurisdictions might do to inform us. So it's a very old institution. Sure. But we've modernized it, fortunately. Fortunately, a lot of things have modernized. I'm glad they have good dental care. But yes, so, we get into all right, moving forward in time, what the State Law Library does today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of our basics. Okay. One is, we are an institution that is part of the judicial branch. So we're a department within the judicial branch, and I report to the Supreme Court and the court administrator. What we do is, what I love about us is that we are open to the public. We are open to the public from 8 to 5 on Monday through Fridays. Okay. And we're also available virtually. As you can imagine, we receive telephone calls and emails and requests for information from people all over the state and actually all over the world. Yeah, there are people who might be doing research on Montana laws that we then provide information for. So the state of Montana is different than a lot of states and federal entities in that we actually open up to the public. And this is surprising to me that there are many libraries and many law libraries that close their doors to the public. And there might be various reasons for that. They don't have the staffing to deal with the public or whatever, but we are, and what I'm excited about is that the judicial branch and the Supreme Court of Montana think it's so important for citizens to have access to legal information, that they have, that they fund and support our library to be open to the public. And so in one day, within a span of 10 minutes, I could be talking with the Chief Justice and or their law clerks and working on the most complicated, bizarre legal problem you can imagine. Sure. And then the next moment I might be downstairs and, a patron has come in because they've been denied access to their child and they're trying to figure out a new parenting plan, or how can I get a court order because school is coming up and we have to make these arrangements. I don't have a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. What the heck can I do? Sure. Or a frequent one is when people pass away, family members are left with, how do we navigate the sort of issues that are left behind? Not only the property or possible money, but also debts, or how do we navigate vehicles that are left behind? How do we do this? So it's an interesting place in that you have a wide spectrum of legal issues or problems that sort of, that come to the fore. One of the things to sort of think about is our collection. So we have, as a library, it's important that we collect legal information. And as a state law library, it's critical that we have a comprehensive collection of everything that Montana has done and what they do in the future. So there's a lot of organizing legal information, organizing, making sure that we know what the laws are, making sure that we can provide people with case law analysis, making databases that are pretty expensive databases, making them freely available to the public if they come into our facilities, and then making it also getting information to judges. So these are, I know that I've gone on here, but there's a lot of things that are going on at the law library.
That's wonderful. And then what does the staff of the library look like? Who works there?
Our strongest resource is our human resources. I am so blessed to be staffed with. We have Sonia Gavin, who works at our sort of front desk area, who's a genius when it comes to legislative information and legislative history. I work with Stephanie Marshall, who's our reference librarian, who is a brilliant, funny, amazing, thoughtful person with years of experience and has been wonderful with her ability to listen and interpret what people need and want and get them the information they need. Kendall Piccolo is our staff sort of administrator for the office. He's the glue guy. He keeps us all together. You need that person who brings your team together. He makes us laugh every morning, which is critical in a workplace.
Right.
You have to have that, that team. And then Jennifer Murphy, whose father watches the show a lot. So, Mr. Murphy, hello. Jennifer Murphy, who works on our digital platforms and creating tools that people can access online. So all this information, of course, there's a lot you can come into the library for, but it's also important for us to make it freely available on the internet, not having stuff behind paywalls, making your government's information available. And then finally, Sydney Tallman, who basically runs the back end of the library. She processes all of our materials. She's our technical services librarian, and so keeps all of the engine going so that we actually have a library because she's processing everything and making it available.
Wonderful.
Great staff.
When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about how the library fits into the access to justice landscape here in Montana. So stay tuned.
This October, author, scientist, and autism advocate Temple Grandin and Grammy Award-winning musician and anti-bullying activist Daryl J. Williams are coming to Butte for the Putting It All Together conference. 3 days of up-to-the-minute information for individuals with developmental disabilities and their families, plus an inspiring evening talk by Temple Grandin. Registration for the conference and admission to Temple Grandin's talk is free, but register early to ensure accommodations. Go to puttingitalltogetherconference.org for more information.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. We are having a fascinating conversation all about the State Law Library with Franklin Runge, who is the State Law Librarian. Franklin, you gave us a wonderful overview of what the library itself is, but I want to talk about one of the things that's near and dear to my heart, and I know to yours, is how the State Law Library fits into the access to justice landscape here in Montana. So let's talk a little bit about what that means.
Sure. One thing I think we should just say is, well, what does access to justice even mean?
Right.
And this really gets into providing citizens in Montana, whether they are represented by a lawyer or not, providing them with the information that they need to make decisions for their lives and their family lives, the information that they need to be able to navigate a court system, which is unfortunately not designed for just everyday people to walk into and get things done. And so we're changing that. The ethos of the Montana judiciary is we need to make our justice accessible. And so that's why we have a judicial branch that's focused on this access to justice initiative. And so if we think of it, I think of it as a network. And this is talking about all of the good people and good entities across Montana that work together to help people access the justice system in a meaningful way. And that's from Montana Legal Services, the Judicial Branch, the Department of Public Health and Human Services has wonderful initiatives on this front as well. And so I think of it as we're part of a patchwork quilt of offices and entities that's working to help all citizens, no matter their sort of education levels, no matter any sort of, it doesn't matter your background. Access to justice is providing that information and the ability to even use a system that seems really intimidating to people.
Yeah, really, really, really. And in practice, what does that look like in the library? I know there are a million ways that you guys help with that, but what does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
I would like to say quickly is that there's an important dimension of this, is that the law library provides people with legal information.
Sure.
And so we provide a map to you, but we're not going to tell you how to, you have to choose your way to get from A to B, because we cannot be people's attorneys.
Right.
We have, some of the staff, we have legal backgrounds and we used to practice law, but I can't be everyone's lawyer, and for a lot of good reasons. So we just provide legal information.
Sure.
But what does this look like in effect? And a lot of this deals with helping individuals with simple tasks in the court system, be that, we're looking to get a divorce. Well, I have a lot of questions for you. Are you able to work with the other party? Are there children involved? And so we go through intake of what's actually going on. And then what we'll do is, if possible, we provide patrons with a stack of forms that will help them, and instructions. So on day one, when you go down to the courthouse, you need to have these 4 forms completed. You need to have 3 copies of them, and you need to do this. And so we kind of go through everything to get them ready.
Yeah.
It's like we are a coach for a team, and then the players go out on the field and do what they need to do.
Sure.
And sometimes they do it beautifully, and sometimes they struggle, and they come back and we help them some more. But so what does access to justice look like? In some way it is, we're helping people with the forms that they need to, close their mother's estate.
Sure.
Or, to get visitation with, their children, to sort of navigate these very critical, important things that allow families in Montana to succeed.
Yeah.
And the court wants people to succeed. The Supreme Court is invested in a citizenship that is able to navigate their lives and their families in a healthy way. So that's one part of access to justice. I think the other real part of access to justice is, I mentioned that patchwork quilt of organizations at work. There are things that our offices can't do, so it's important that our office knows, there is this resource available for you in this part of the state. You can, try to call there. So there are a lot of referrals in finding those, as I mentioned earlier, those hidden gems in Montana that really help people.
Yeah.
And that's what we are trying to sort of capture and make available for people as well. And then access to justice looks a little differently for lawyers.
Yeah.
We provide continuing legal education opportunities for lawyers, for them to, get information and provide them with what's going on in the state, or educate them. Yeah. And so I would just say that access to justice isn't just for, those that need the most help in society. It's also for all people can benefit.
Right.
And Montana has a very active citizenry that wants to know about the law. And so we also, access to justice means providing information to them as well. So it's helping everybody.
That is such a wonderful, being a place to be the starting line for so many folks is really what they need. When we get back, I want to talk a little bit about legal information versus legal advice, and then legal information just as a concept. What does that even mean? Awesome. So make sure you stay tuned, because we've got lots of really great information still for you, and a lot about what kind of information you can receive at the Law Library. So stay tuned to Aging Horizons.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Today, class, we'll be discussing the term ombudsman, a word we borrowed from the Swedes and never gave back. Say you're a resident or you have a loved one in long-term care. Now, what do you do if you're not happy with the care and services you receive? You call your long-term care ombudsman, of course. Your ombudsman is available to support you and your rights. An advocate on your behalf could be the ticket. This is your home. If you have questions, the numbers right there below me have all the answers. Class dismissed.
I was angry and upset when the doctor told me I have diabetes. I just didn't want to deal with it, the needles and the diet restrictions. But after I started to learn about it, those feelings changed. I was at risk for a heart attack caused by high blood sugar. That got my attention. I started watching my diet and making sure I got enough exercise every day. I want to be around for my grandkids, and now that I know what to do, it seems like a small price to pay.
Ask your doctor about diabetes education or visit montana211.org.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. We are talking all about the State Law Library, and we are here with Franklin Rung. How many times am I going to mess up your name today?
Every time.
I know.
Every time.
You're just going to get a new name, I think.
Yes, at the end of this. All right.
So let's talk a little bit about what legal information means. What does that concept mean?
Sure. I love to talk about this topic because Montana is so exciting about this issue because of the 1972 Constitution. It is amazing that we live in a state that is the sort of central document that runs how government runs was written in 1972 as opposed to like 1772.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And part of the Montana Constitution, Article 2, Section 9, is all about citizens' right to know. And that's really, if we think about what the law library is doing, is complying with a citizen's right to know what's going on in government.
Yeah.
And so when we think about what does it mean to provide legal information, it means understanding whether someone's problem is controlled by a statute from the legislature, whether it is a regulation that could be generated by an administrative agency.
Sure.
And also, what gets hard for people to understand is that there's also a whole area of law that you don't find written down clearly in statutes, but is what we call the common law or case law.
Sure.
That is developed over hundreds of years or even tens of years by the courts.
Yeah.
The courts themselves also sort of dictate in the American system sort of principles that we all live by.
Sure.
Like don't beat up your neighbor, right? So that's sort of a controlled by statute, but there's also parts of the court cases that explain that. So providing legal information is understanding all of these segments of government and all of the information that they provide, and then being able to package it in relevant ways to be able to provide to a citizen who says, you know, my HOA is doing the following things.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, here's all of the laws that we can find on HOAs, and we're going to let you read them. We're not going to tell you, we can't dictate to you what they mean or what your next steps should be, but we can at least show you, here are the rules that are dictating your situation.
Sure.
And that's what so many people are looking for when they're trying to resolve issues with their neighbors, issues within their families, issues with the police or the government. Like, how do I even understand what my rights or obligations are? And I'm thrilled that we're in a state that is very much focused on making sure that people know their right to know.
Yeah.
Their right to know. And so in providing legal information, we're able to, as I said earlier, we can provide a map. Now, we cannot act as someone's lawyer and tell you, and now you're going to, I need you to think about this, or let's, plan on these pleadings that, we can't do that. But we can provide information that allow people to make reasonable decisions about their life and their family.
When people think about the difference between advice and information, what's maybe an easy way to distill that sort of, where is that line for folks?
Information is options. Here are what your options are. Sure. Advice is take road A.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Sure. But I can say if we look at what you've presented me, there are 4 different things that you should think about, and here's information about them, and you're going to have to make that decision. Or, if someone is lucky enough to be able to afford an attorney and hire one, then take this information that I've given you and go talk to a professional.
That's wonderful. I think so many of the times that the people that we speak to, and I'm sure the people that you speak to, they don't even know where the starting line is. They can't find their way to where they should even start the process. And it's so important that the State Law Library exists to be able to provide that starting line for folks.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I'll say it's wonderful that I have a job in state government that fills me with a lot of joy every day.
Yeah.
And it's also, there's sorrow. There are hard days of watching people go through very hard moments.
Yeah.
But I'm thrilled that there is, in the state of Montana, there are places that people can go that provide genuine professional help.
Yeah.
And that's an awesome thing to be a part of. And it makes our office sort of a happy place to be because we're helping people.
Right. That's so, so, so important. I know we've talked about those forms, and I just want to highlight some of the ones that you guys use on a regular basis. What type of forms do you hand out at the Law Library?
So, we work a lot with parenting plans, we work a lot with divorce, we work a lot with estate planning, and also sort of navigating the probate of an estate when someone's family member has passed away. There are things from... I'm blanking.
There are so many of them,
Yeah, I know. Gosh. So let me try again. Can we roll or?
You just keep going. You just tell me all about them.
All right. So, gosh.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you one more super important question. I should have asked you earlier. How do people get in touch with the Law Library?
Of course. We are, as I said, we're open Mondays through Fridays, 8 through 5.
Okay.
And we have email contact, which... and
we're going to put up on the screen.
We have email contact, and our telephone number is 406-444-3660.
And you're located here in Helena.
Oh yeah, that's the most important thing of all. Yes, there's the physical location. We're at 215 North Sanders, which is the Justice Building, or sometimes it's the Mazurk Justice Building. And so we're right kind of across the street from, Fish and Wildlife is there, in the new museum that's being built.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful building.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Absolutely. Well, Franklin, thank you so much for coming and talking a little bit about one of those hidden gems, as you call it, for the State Law Library. It was so wonderful to get to talk with you. And I hope that you learned something new today about what an important and incredible resource the State Law Library is. If you have a legal question, if you have some information that you're looking for, some research, make sure you give them a call because they are wonderful to work with and you will not regret it. So thank you for staying tuned to Aging Horizons.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.